Hi, I'm Kendra Corman. If you're a coach, consultant, or marketer, you know marketing is far from a perfect science. And that's why this show is called Imperfect Marketing. Join me and my guests as we explore how to grow your business with marketing tips and, of course, lessons learned along the way. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. I'm your host, Kendra Corman, and today I'm really excited to be talking about some SEO, some AI, all the things with Kyle Bailey. Kyle, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Kendra. I appreciate the opportunity.
All I know is that you started with home service businesses and SEO. How did you get here? What brought you here?
There's a great country song. I woke up Monday morning with a hammer in my hand, and that's kind of how I started my life. My earliest memories are with my dad in the cabinet shop. I got stung by a bee when I was like 2 years old in my dad's cabinet shop, and it's still a very vivid memory. But yeah, I've been around the construction trades literally all my life. And starting in about 2010, when I started my agency, I actually started doing sales and SEO for a couple of other companies and doing some social media marketing. That was when it was just in its infancy, because in 2010 is when Facebook kind of standardized their business pages. And so that's when we still thought that Facebook was going to replace Google and nobody was going to have websites because we were all going to have business pages and it was all going to be happily ever after. Then Facebook realized they couldn't monetize all this free traffic. And so they choked down business pages. And then that's when I moved back over into SEO. But I just have a real soft spot in my heart for home service. And I know you deal with coaches a lot. And for all the coaches out there, I got a soft spot for you as well because I'm one of you. So I get all the herding cats and the babysitting aspects of all that stuff. So yeah, that's how I got started.
I love that story. Yeah, because a lot of it we grow up with different things and different pieces that really do shape us and where we head. And I remember when I was the Jeep advertising manager that we had to grab somebody else on the floor that we were on at Chrysler. His daughter had a Facebook login and we could use her .edu email address to check on our ads. Because we had no other way to do it. It was only open to .edu email addresses. So yes, I've been here through the whole thing too. So let's jump in and let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is AI, and then one of your favorite topics, which is SEO. And so how is it changing? How is AI changing SEO? Because I have seen a lot of crazy stuff. People have been forwarding me stuff from people going, have a Google's or a AI search party and everybody's going to start asking questions into ChatGPT about your business over this 2-hour time frame, and then you're going to rotate to another business the next month and it's going to make sure that you're listed. And I don't know. It feels
Are
like
they saying because
games.
of frequency, because all those people suddenly showed interest? Interesting. There's been some gamification like that. There's a couple of, I won't name their names right now, but there's some big famous SEOs who have done stuff like that. And Google's found those signals and choked down on them. Lots of stuff works in the short term. But when you put all your eggs in that basket or you put all that effort in, I'm a member of a couple of kind of mastermind groups, and a lot of those guys, they're always chasing that stuff, and they get big short term gains. But what you have to be a master of in that world is you got to be I think of it as surfing. And as you're on the top of that wave, as that wave begins to come down, you got to find the next one because all that momentum that you just built goes away. So the smart ones, what they do is they do probably an 80-20. 80% is just the solid, boring SEO. And then 20% is this ride the wave. We found this little cheat code. But if you do the reverse, where you do 80-20 and put all of your eggs in the basket of the cheap, fast way, you're in for just a lot of heartache. Anybody who remembers, was it overstock.com? They're kind of the poster boy for failure on a massive scale because Google was signaling, this is back when they did the spam link update, and it literally killed their business and they've never come back. You can really get down a dark rabbit hole on that kind of cheat code stuff. The thing to find out is, how are these platforms ranking businesses? Just how are they normally doing it? Here's what's fun, they'll tell you. They'll tell you if you ask them, "Well, why did you return those people instead of these over here?" And they'll the apology wave, the AI has, "Oh, you're right. I am so sorry. I totally missed that." That's a, confirmation loop that doesn't really do you much good, but if you just ask how they returned the ones that they did return, they'll either tell you that how they did. ChatGPT is pretty transparent. They say, "Yeah, well, I referenced Yelp. I referenced this Google reviews. I saw this." I tried to do the same thing with Microsoft, Copilot, and it wouldn't tell me. It just said, "We know it." Yeah. It just comes from the knowledge base. We
We
know
know
it,
it. We
which
know it.
I think what that might mean is they're using Google best practices and they're just not telling you. The good thing is, if anybody out there is familiar with Search Engine Land, Search Engine, Journal, those are 2 just really well-respected, websites that keep up with all the changes and tell you, "Hey, you need to adapt your strategy because Google's making this big change." Well, we really don't have that backlog of data yet, but it's starting to happen. We're starting to get it. And so the good thing is lots of smart people are out there studying this all the time. And so they're able to start telling you, do this, don't do that. One of the things that let me know that, I always compare it to like in Star Wars when the Death Star comes around behind the moon, they're like, that's no moon, it's AI. It's coming to destroy your lives. And that when my first moment of that shadow came when, I've got a big, remodeling company in the Dallas Metroplex, and we were number 1 across probably 200 keywords. We were just dominating the entire marketplace. I checked ChatGPT, and we were nowhere to be found, and that blew me away. I was like, "How is this even possible?" Because if ChatGPT is this good, number 1, they ought to be reading all these signals. Well, the simple fact is they don't read websites well. And so for a lot of people saying, "Well, ChatGPT is gonna beat Google," I don't think so. I think that's why they're freaking out. Sam, I forgot Altman, is that his name? The
Altman, yep.
ChatGPT guy? Yeah.
Mhm.
He's been sounding a lot of alarm bells saying that, they've got a problem 'cause Google's starting to catch up. And one of the reasons is if you can't crawl a website, how are you gonna return the best result? And at the end of the day, you can have all of these bells and whistles. You can have all this "we're better than you" hoopla and marketing. But if Susie and Sam homeowner can't get the solution they want, if they're standing in water in their basement and they need a plumber to come fix it, and they search ChatGPT and it gives them somebody 5 counties over because ChatGPT doesn't crawl websites very well, they're gonna bounce off that. And that kind of thing is like a door slamming shut. They'll never look at ChatGPT as a good resource again because they were in their moment of need and it didn't get met, right? So it's the same way for all of us. We have a certain need that needs to get met, and we found the one that solves it the best. And the bad news for everybody else is Google is catching up to everybody because they had such a big lead in all the other search categories. So it is changing, yes, but a lot of the groundwork, what I would say is the biggest adaptation and that we're rolling this out for all of our customers, is you need to be able to propagate reviews on probably half a dozen other platforms other than Google. Houzz, Yelp, Facebook, Foursquare, believe it or not, this is resurrecting Foursquare. I'm seeing Foursquare reviews, and
Wow,
references. Yeah.
it sounds like what COVID did to the QR code.
Right, right. Or,
AI did for
Peloton,
Foursquare.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the big change that's here, and we're starting to see, okay, this is how you win. Does that answer your
Okay.
question? I kinda
Yeah,
talked a
it
while.
does. It's really interesting. I like that perspective because I'm not a believer in the gaming the system. So even beyond the 80/20, I'm like more the like 90/10 towards the traditional reliable piece of things because I believe in experimenting because marketing is not perfect, right? And so you definitely have to experiment to an extent, but it's like if you know it's a game, it's not going to work long term. Like you know in advance it's not going to. And so cuz I had a client last year that they didn't want words on their site, but they wanted to rank for those words, and I said, "But that's not how this works." And then they said, "Okay, well," they said, "Why don't we just put it on in white type on a white background?" And I'm like, "No, because that doesn't work either anymore."
Well, that'll get you, the blacklisted.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so
Not
I'm
only is it
like, "No,
not
no,
gonna
no,
work, you'll
we're
ruin
not
your
doing that.
domain. Yeah.
We're not doing that."
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's like, well, it used to work. Yes, it did. And then the search engines got smart. So SEO is clearly not dead, not going anywhere anytime soon, especially not being replaced 100% by AI anytime soon. My question for you is like, we used to blog a lot, right? People still do. There's millions, maybe billions of blogs out there, right? And so and a lot of that was for SEO, right? To show Google that you had recent content and to be able to rank for keywords, hub and spoke, and all these other different ways we were doing it. Is that still happening then to reinforce SEO?
It's one of those wonderful, SEO things that depends, that's the answer to everything at SEO.
It is. That's the answer to everything everywhere.
What I would recommend the approach to that question is, what are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to achieve getting your 10 blue links, and getting traffic through that, it's gonna be an abysmal failure. But if you're trying to make a good search experience for your customer once they get on your website, that's a great thing to do. And so then what you want to be doing is figure out, what is it that your customer wants to know? What are the top 5 fears they have about engaging in business with you? What are their top 5 dreams? What's their dream outcome, right? If you listen to Alex Hormozy, he talks about the dream outcome all the time. And I really love that as a North Star, because every customer you have has a dream outcome in engaging with you. And then there's a horror scenario, and you need to address that. You've got to be aware of those horror outcomes, and you need to tell them, "Hey, we're not one of those people." So for remodeling, you've got the chuck in a truck horror stories. They came in, they tore my house up, and they left with the deposit. You've got the roofer horror stories. They came, they ripped my roof off, took the deposit, and left. The blue tarp scenario, if you ever heard about that, that somebody rips the roof off, all the shingles off, throws the blue tarp on it, says, "We'll be back. Our shingles are coming in tomorrow," and you never see them again. And so, how do you convince somebody you're not that? Well, one way is you blog about that. You address it head on. So the customer, they know that you already have that in mind and you're not one of those people. Here's how we're not. We've been in this area for 25 years. We've been under this masthead, this name. We haven't changed our name. That is a really common thing. And I'm in Texas, and so there's no license for most trades in Texas. And so it can be the Wild West. But when a customer knows that, hey, we've been at this address under this name for 25 years, you can't run from that, right? And so it's how you convince them of that. But then how do they make a good decision, an educated decision? Why do I want dimensional shingles over 3 tab shingles? Why do I want the impervious synthetic underlayment versus black tar paper that everybody used to use? Why is it important that we use ring cap nails instead of the old staple with I forget what they call them, but they're little metal discs, and these are all little things. We use 5 nails, 6 nails per shingle instead of 4. What I used to do when I was helping out, I was consulting for roofing companies. I would video the shingles going on. You could hear the nail guns going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so that little thing right there, that's just a proof point that, hey, we're not like the other guys. We do this, and that makes your warranty valid on your shingles. A lot of people don't know, but if the shingles are not installed properly, the 50-year warranty on them is void. So if you have damage, that company can come out, see there's only 4 nails in the shingles, and say, hey, sorry, it wasn't installed right, void your warranty. So it's education pieces like that. Give me a blog post on that. Shingle installation, the 5 ways that a bad roofing company can void your warranty on this new $10,000 roof you just paid for. So you can feel that as a homeowner. You can feel that pricking all those fear points, because the last thing I want to do is pay $10,000 for a roof and then have the warranty voided, right? So remodeling, what are the basic fundamental things that have to be done for a remodel to be successful? And there's a guy, Jasmine Alec. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's all over LinkedIn. And man, if you want to study hooks, that guy is the best. And one of his intros I've totally ripped off. He said, "These are my 5 non-negotiables for X." And I'm just like, that is great. I'm going to start using that everywhere. So it's, what are your non-negotiables for whatever it is, whether it's coaching, roofing, remodeling, plumbing. Here are non-negotiables. We will not do business in your home without these things in place because you're not going to get a good result. I will not engage in coaching with you without these things in place because you're not going to get a good result. Once you say that, that just sets you apart. You're not the guy or the woman who's going to go in and take any deal, right? You'll only take the deal.
I told a client that I wouldn't manage their Google ads unless they had someone that would guarantee answer the phone because the receptionist was either always on the other line or away from her desk in the bathroom, like whatever, right? I'm like, we're throwing away money. I'm not gonna do it. Like we put on call tracking and found out nobody was picking it up. And I'm like, we're done. Unless you can prove to me someone's gonna, oh, it's fixed. And I was like, if it's not, like, I'm done and never doing Google ads again with you. And they're like,
Well, that's a
okay.
great case study, like a blog post case study. What you just said, that's perfect. Put that in a blog post because the old days, it was like get people to your site and then try to get them to the right place. Now it's like every time you get somebody on your site, you need to treat that like gold. That was kind of always true, but if something can be more true than it used to be, that's a thing that's more true now because AI is out there to take your leads. They're out there to take those eyeballs.
So let me ask you a question. I am a huge WordPress fan and I run into people with SEO issues all of the time. And most of the time, they're on one of these other sites, right? That has a builder and it just doesn't have the SEO tools built into the back end that allows them to do things to, I guess, improve it. Plus, they don't own their site, which I really struggle with, right? What are your thoughts on, the builder and what role that has a play in it?
It's another one of those questions where I think you back up one question behind that. Where's the business owner's mind? Like, we used to do deals where we would go in, somebody else could build a WordPress site, and then we would or the website, and then we would take over. But we've now done it where, we only work on sites that we've built and manage. We make a few exceptions, but the majority of it, we're gonna go in, rebuild the site on our platform that we manage because, I mean, I've got a customer right now, and he set up a site a few years ago. His partner, unfortunately, became ill, and nobody can find who bought that domain. And we're trying to. I'm spending all this time trying to run this down, and I'm only doing it because he's a buddy of mine. If it was anybody else, I would say I'm sorry. We either need to alter the domain and put it on something else, or something else, or just pause the project. But I think what I'm getting at to answer your question, because do you mind me naming the names of the other builders?
Feel
Site
free.
builders? Okay.
Oh,
So
yes.
Squarespace, which is Squarespace is really solid. I've had 2 cases come to me where the people were like, "Okay, we're ready to move up to WordPress." And I looked at their rankings and they were ranking, top 3 across everything. And it was on a Squarespace site. So it's not impossible. It's the approach. So our approach, like when you come to us, we're a holistic approach. We're going to handle your website. We're going to handle the content. We're going to handle the strategy, the blogging and the content strategy. We're going to handle the SEO output. We're going to handle the local SEO output. But when you piecemeal things and you're always trying to save, you don't want to pay somebody $5,000 to build a website. You want to go drag and drop and build it yourself. Okay, well, at some point, you're going to have to move into the big leagues and just own it. Because somebody asked a question a long time ago that I really love. It helps me make decisions. Would you pay somebody $200 an hour to be average to low grade website builder? And hopefully the answer is no. Well, that's what you're doing because your time needs to be worth at least $200 an hour. And you're out there trying to put together a website to save money. The other way to look at it is, would you pay $30,000 a year for a medium grade marketer? Because that's probably what you're going to get for 30,000, $15 an hour. You're going to get somebody who can post some stuff, somebody who can do a few things. Not bad. Now, would you pay $30,000 a year for a top level? Well, the answer should be yes. It should be a no brainer. Well, that's what you get when you engage with an agency. But somebody goes, well, $2,500 a month. I'm not paying that. Well, yes, you are. One way or another, you are. And so to go back to your question, anybody out there who's thinking about piecemealing things to save money, you're costing yourself way more money in the long. You need to get somebody who has a holistic strategy, who can give you a roadmap. Like we just took somebody, they've been in a market for 25 years. Actually 35, they're 35 years. 35 years. Had a website with 3 pages on it. And the area started growing. They started having competitors come in, and now that website is a boat anchor on them. It's really dragging them down because all these competitors are coming in with these nice shiny websites, and they look, second now to anybody comparing. And so in just 2.5 months now, we've taken them from that to we have about 27 pages indexed and ranking, and it's telling their story in a holistic way now. It's not about like how much money can I save on this website? It's how much is this going to cost me in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, especially with AI. You've got to have somebody who can adapt to AI strategy.
There's a time and a place for bootstrapping it, right? I mean, when a lot of us start out, you don't have that $5,000 because there's $0 coming in the door. I get it. But at some point, yeah, you're right. You have to step up to the big leagues, and a
It's just
lot of
like running
those
ads,
builders
right?
don't do it.
Like you were talking about, you can't go to Google and say, "Hey, I'm going to bootstrap this and I'm going to," no, the ads cost what they cost.
What I'm summarizing up for us is with SEO, it's important and everything depends. But it's like but it's like with marketing, right? I mean, everything does depend. It depends on your goals and your target and what's important and where things are at. There's a lot of depends, and I think that's really important to note. And I appreciate you sharing that and saying that. It's been awesome to have you on, but before I let you go, I do have to ask you the question that I ask all of my guests, and that is that this show is called Imperfect Marketing because marketing is anything but a perfect science. What has been your biggest marketing lesson learned?
Well, probably not far off of what we just talked about. It's like, you're starting your business, you're hard scrabbling it. I'm actually going to start my podcast. It's going to be called Peach Pits and Gravel because the idea is every lesson you need to learn is just on the other side of getting drugged face first through some gravel. It's like that. It's like when I finally committed, I had people tell me you need to commit to one idea, one vertical. And I'm like, no, because I'm losing business if I commit, you know. And so it's all about your ideal customer profile. I like to ask this question, so I'll own it. If you could have 1,000 customers and they're all identical, who would that be? Like the perfect customer for you, and you could clone them 1,000 times, and they're walking through your door every month, laying down cash. Who is that? Now start talking to them. It really straightens everything out. If you've ever heard it's easier to pull a string than to push it, it's the same idea. Once you have a North Star that you're moving towards and everything you say goes to this person, now, well, what platform are they on? This platform. Well, what blog post do they like? What questions do they want to answer? And when I finally obeyed that myself, instead of just preaching it, that really straightened things out for me.
We all do that. It's like, do what I say, not as I do.
Right. Go look at my website.
No, and I think, in the episode before this one, with Kay Miller, we definitely talked about your ideal customer profile a lot. We talked about it with Rob, we talked about it with Michelle. So, I mean, out of the last like 5 episodes, it's all about your customer. And this is a theme that I think is really, 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 really important. I can't say that enough because if you don't know your customer, again, what you're talking about, that North Star, you can't chart your course. You can't nothing else you do is going to move the needle until you know that. I work with a coaching client. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so helpful." And I'm like, you know your customer, you know them inside and out, and you know exactly what they want to hear, and you know not what they want to hear, but you know what the questions they have, and you answer those questions. I haven't worked with anybody that is that dialed into who their customer is without months of counseling to try and get them off the fear of like letting some business go, right? You're not letting anything go, right? You're focusing in and end up with more than you could ever dream of. And I think that it's so important to remember that. And I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you to all of you for tuning in, whether you're listening or watching. If you learned something today, and I hope you did, it would be awesome if you would rate and subscribe wherever you're at. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.